Our next task is to add a new virtual router. So under the Network tab, let's go to Virtual Routers, which is right here. The best way to understand a virtual router is like this. It is a virtualized or partitioned routing table that the firewall can use. It's kind of like the Cisco VRF solution where we can have separate routing tables. Well, this is the same for the PAN appliance, but it is called virtual routers. And by default, there is one virtual router, and this will contain the list of all interfaces that is a part of that virtual router. So using virtual routers is very common if you want to use different zones and interfaces for one customer, which is isolated from another customer's virtual router that may be configured on the same firewall appliance, but using different interfaces. Before we add our own virtual router, let's look at the details of the default virtual router. So here you'll see, of course, the name, and you'll see the list of interfaces that is added to that virtual router. So right now, no interfaces is added to this virtual router default. On the left, you will see the different routing protocols that we can configure, like static routes, even OSPF. And these two routing protocols specifically is what we will be configuring with our virtual router in a different step. So it's pretty simple. Let's go ahead and close this out. To add a new virtual router, let's click on Add at the very bottom. And the only thing that we're going to do is define the name. We're not going to specify the interfaces or do any routing. That will be different steps. So all we're going to do is give it a name, and we're going to call this RH-VR. That's it. Once we're done, let's click on OK. So now we have added our custom virtual router that we will be using in our design. And for right now, that is everything that we need to do. Now you'll also see on the far right something called Runtime Stats. If we click on that for our virtual router, this will show the list of our routing table. Now right now there's nothing listed because there is no interfaces or IPs configured yet. But we can look at the routing table and other details for RIP, OSPF, even BGP. So once we configure that, we'll go back to the runtime stats and show you what that looks like.